Next guest is going to give you a masterclass in interior design for your practice. Did you know one of the things we're about to learn is that there's a difference, a big difference between an interior designer and an interior decorator? Mitra Silva, the CEO of Seymour Design, is going to be bringing us a lot of great insight into how you and your practice can impact your bottom line and create an irresistible experience for your patients. I hope you're going to enjoy our next. Well, our guest today here at the Concierge Medicine Forum in Masterclass on Interior Design is Mitra Silva of Seymour Design. She's the founder of Seymour Design, and you can connect directly with Mitra. Ask her questions about your practice, interior design tips, what she's doing with Seymour Design in healthcare interiors. It's amazing, and encourage you to please reach out to Mitra and look at their website, look at some of the photos, just beautiful stuff. So Mitra, thank you for joining us here on the Concierge Medicine Forum.
Thank you, Michael. Thank you for having me.
So we're going to talk today, and I'll let you go ahead and share your screen, Mitra, with the audience, we are going to talk really a masterclass in interior design. And the title of this is Traditional versus World-Class Way to Design Your Practice. And I think that that's spot on for many doctors. They know that there's an issue. They know there's a problem with this, but with their designs, with their furniture, with elements of color, the space layout, and you're going to help them with this today. So at least share something that I think everyone will walk away with.
Thank you. Thank you. Yeah. So the reason I selected this topic, or I wanted to share this topic, it was about it's time to transform, right? The old way of looking at healthcare, serving patients, serving ourselves. I mean, when I say ourselves, meaning as an individual, doctors, entrepreneur, creating a business, it's time to create that like the next level. So that's what I wanted to share. So let me share my screen, and I'm gonna start on. Can you see my screen?
Yes.
Awesome. So
that's great.
Traditional versus world-class way to design your practice. Today, I want to talk about three important elements that I'm going to show you. What you're going to learn is what does that even mean? What is traditional? What is world-class? And how you're setting yourself up for success and for creating that world-class. I'll walk you through like a glimpse of like how we do it internally. It takes a lot of details and time, but I want to show you what's possible, what you can create with your practice. And I have a bonus at the end. A little bit about myself. I am doing design for over 17 years. I was a pre-med before I went to design school. I realized that when I was in med school, that like going for the med school, that like this is something I don't see myself to be medical in that way. So I went to design. As years passed by, I realized I still have passion for medical, so I combined these two together. We serve clients all over US, from New York to Chicago to LA, and we worked on projects like UCLA and the larger entity and a lot of individual. I would say 80% of our clientele, they own their own business. They're 1 to 2 doctors, or they really thrive and are striving to create a great life for themselves and create impact for their patients. So what is a traditional way? So the traditional way of doing design and construction and getting your space is you hire an architect. You're looking at like, okay, what's possible in this space, a technical way of what are the walls, how many walls is going to be built or like to be demoed or break down. And then you hire a contractor and they're going to give you some sort of like initial bid. And then you hire a designer halfway through to give you some hopefully you hire a designer halfway through to looking at your design, some finishes, some cabinetry finishes and furniture, and that's it, right? I won't say that it doesn't work, but the result you get, it works in the sense that the outcome you get, as if like I'm just gonna draw a picture, There's no yes or no or bad or good. Is like as if like you're going for like I don't know Toyota versus you gotta go for a Porsche, right? It's just a level of experience, right? The traditional way is what took us up to here.
Well, and I think that I'll insert this. I want physicians listening and those listening who are, assisting their physicians with this is there's a big difference between an architect and a designer. Why don't you explain that real quick?
Absolutely. Actually, great question. So, architect has that more technical and engineering kind of like a mindset of like what is the technical part of it? How many walls? How many like if your I don't know the HVAC system, which is your AC system, if it's enough space for your waiting room area, which we'll talk about that. So it's very focused on what is the limited space you have and what can you build in it with the technical part of the architectural drawings and architectural and construction. Versus when you hire a designer, especially specialized in medical, you're looking at the whole different side of the spectrum, which is patient experience, elevated experience. And it all starts with the human psychology, with how you can create a space that it has the higher level of experience, like you're going to a motel or you're going to a 5-star hotel. The biggest difference is it was an intentional design. And yes, there was a budget and everything else behind it to support it, but it all started with that intentional, how we can create a higher level of experience, okay? So the biggest difference between the designer and architect is from designer looking at what is that experience and the vibe and the energy and the flow that you can create in your space, right? From the space planning to lighting to where your exam room and the technical part and everything is going to be, versus the architect first look at all of the technical part, and possibly at the end the experience will be combined into that, but it doesn't have the same result. It doesn't give you the same result. Is that clear, Michael?
Absolutely. Yeah.
And the other thing I want to tell you, one more note, that there's a big difference between a designer and decorator. Okay, just understand it. A designer understands the structural part of the inside of the building and has a much in-depth understanding of what is that experience, what is that mood, what is that elevated harmony into the space, versus the decorator is all limited about the decoration, about the finishes, about the furniture and artwork, versus the designer has to understand the human psychology behind every element that is being interacted in space, from the indoor air quality to the space planning, how the workflow happens, create the efficiency with your team. If your team is like so far away from the printer and all day is going back and forth between the two rooms, that's going to not save you time and energy, actually creates a lot of more wastage of time and energy. So the designer think about all of their technicality from the human and psychological standpoint. But decorator is solely looking at decoration, colors, which is just I call it a icing on the cake. Mm-hmm. You have to build your cake right, and it has to taste awesome. And then the look is the last piece of the puzzle, right? So just wanted to give that explanation.
Absolutely.
So what is the world-class way, right? If you allow that your why, which is bringing in your design team, that they're expert and they understand medical. One thing I want to basically pay attention to that when you're listening to this, that not any designer can create a medical space. Medical, if you want to save yourself time and energy, do not hire a designer, architect, or contractor that they don't know medical. They're gonna learn on your time and on your money to learn medical, because there is a lot of codes, there's a lot of It's a very complex and sophisticated way of doing it. And it's not about how much money you pay, it's about the team you put together that they have the expertise in medical world. So when I say designer, when I say architect, when I say contractor, let's assume that I'm talking about all these people, all this team, all this expertise, they have already experience in medical. Don't bring a residential, or almost I would say, don't bring a commercial contractor or architect to the medical world, because a lot, like I've seen it, we do a lot of correction. Like the cabinetry wasn't ADA compliance and they couldn't pass the city inspection, building it again, going back and forth. Your time is extremely valuable, and time is money. So let's go back to this. The world-class way is hiring a designer that is leading your project based on the patient experience. The designer doesn't become your main team. All of these are pieces of the puzzle. No one is going to be the fourth runner, but when you would talk about core, it's about that patient experience. So hiring a designer who is expert in medical, and then tie it up to an architect, right? The architect should collaborate constantly with the designer, and then bringing the contractor to the picture, right? This is if you want to set yourself for success, and it has nothing to do with the location. We have clients in New York, we have clients in Beverly Hills, we have clients middle of nowhere in Utah, in Tennessee, in Washington, D.C. Like, success has a formula. If you follow it, you're going to get that end result. And this is what has been proven to us over and over again. Just knowing this is your team. You can talk about your budget. You can put a budget together with their help, and understanding that it's not about how much money you spend, it's about how wisely you spend your money. With the right team, it gets you the world-class result. So setting yourself up for a world-class is 3 elements. The first one is your own experience, okay? As a doctor, as an entrepreneur, as someone who you're creating your space, your practice, it all starts with you. What do you want to create for your patients? At the end of the day, so let's walk through this practice. When you close the door at the end of the day and you're going home, how do you want to feel? You spend all of your life to your education, you have a dream, you have a family. You're doing this because there's a drive in you. Think about what is that experience you want to create. When you close the door at the end of the day on your practice and you're heading home, what is that feeling? What is that like? Do you want to be exhausted, or do you want to feel elevated? You want to feel excited that you give all of your best with your team and you serve the patients and you're making good money and you're growing, and it's like a very interactive process. And therefore, you think about when your patient close the door after they see you, they close the door of your lounge area, which we don't call it waiting room. They close it and they're exiting. Like, wow, that was fantastic. From the moment I walked in to the moment that I was approached, on the phone, it starts way before that, the patient experience. We'll talk about that. But being in the lounge area, seeing the doctors, they were really focused on me. And like, I want to give them referral. I want to help them. It's just our human nature. The next level of being in life is to give, right? So think about, what do you want to create for your patients, for yourself, right? And then the other thing is, like, when you are so clear, when you put the right team together, then all of this like traditional way of like, oh, the hidden cost, the labor, oh, this is, all of those gets eliminated because you have a team that it gives you clarity way ahead of the time, right? What does that mean? That means like, I'll go walk you through our process, but way in the beginning, we're looking at cost evaluation, budget breakdown. We don't just go select nice material from different like tile store and furniture and all this. No, like, let's talk about money. Let's talk about having clarity, because if you don't have a great time in your practice, I mean, sorry, if you don't have a great time building your practice, the end result would not be awesome. So you have to have clarity. I know you have such a busy and really scheduled time back to back, and you have the time that it goes to your family. But if you're having the right team and you're very intentional about what you want to creating, your result is going to be tenfold. It's going to be 10x. So take that time. And I tell you, and I'm really passionate right now because I see that with our clients that they're all successful. Otherwise, I wouldn't say like it's because us. I'm very humble for that experience, but they know the formula to success is just giving the high elevated experience to themselves, to their team, to what they're presenting to the world, to their patients. And also when you come to the business side of it, you have to have a good understanding of the timeline. Okay, be realistic about it. We get calls. They're like, I'm getting this space and I want to open up in 3 months. And it has to, it's just a very simple thing. Just change the flooring, walls, and we're good to go. And I'm like, oh, what is your square footage? And then we walk them through. I'm like, I would love to give you, like, not to burst your bubble, but you cannot do this in 3 months. It's like, no, the contractor told me I can't do it. I'm like, no. And then I had emails that I came back like, I wish I would have listened. I wish I knew it. It's just really doing, if you want to take a trip that you're gonna spend like $20,000. You want to let's go, like, let's talk about like going to Bali or something that is very tropical, and you plan that trip like 6 months to a year ahead of time because you want to take advantage of every single moment of it. And if you don't take the time putting the right team, right budget, right timeline in the beginning for the space that you're potentially leasing for 5 to 10 years, or if you're buying it, that's even make it more urgent for you to look at these all necessary steps to take. So this is the first part for your experience, right? And then it comes to your space, okay, which I mentioned it. Is it better to lease or is it better to buy? Which is the best way for you? Um, uh, like you have to understand that, like, sometimes if you're getting this space that the building is going to provide it's called TI allowance, which is a tenant improvement allowance, and you're paying a higher rent, it might be even better for you to just lease it, because your return of investment and the headache that you're going to have is going to be much less, and you're going to take more money home versus if you buy the building, let's say in, I don't know, Washington, D.C., or in a more downtown area, or if it's like Atlanta, or if it's like Chicago or LA or whatever that is, and if it's like higher, like it's better that you lease it than you buying it. But if your situation is like, if you get a one standalone building that is gonna like really turn around and like in a couple of years it's gonna give you a higher ROI, which is a return of investment, then look at it. Have a good broker. Talk to a good broker specialized in medical. Please, like, I can't emphasize it enough. Then understanding your current state. Is your space is gray shell, vanilla shell? I mean, it's just the fancy words. Like gray shell, that means it has nothing. Vanilla shell, that means like it has a drywall and some walls, but it has nothing else, right? So do you want to do a facelift? Is it a major renovation? Sometimes our prospect, they come to us, they're like, I don't know what I want to do. I want to make it nice. But then when we go through the whole thing, we realize they want to gut out the whole thing, right? So if you have an expert and keep communicating that, you find out. Don't settle just because you have to get a space and move forward, right? Understand and keep, and it's not your expertise. Rely on the people that you hire and trust them. And do that homework until you understand what is the direction do I want to go? Do I want to only stick to, like, let's say, just spending, I don't know, like just giving a number, $100,000, or just want to spend like $200,000, right? And what is possible for me? Like, what is the end result? Am I staying in this space for 3 years, or am I staying in this space for 10 years, right? So you have to understand that the investment you make in the 3 years lease is a total different investment that you should make in a 10 years lease, right? And if you have a right broker, it can really help you to get, money from the building to help you for the building out the space.
Well, before we jump off of that commercial broker idea and that concept, that is such, for those listening, that is such an important person, very similar to a realtor that you would buy a home with, but specializing in commercial. They understand lease lengths, they understand TIs, they understand, square footage, costs. They understand, what, we could probably get that from $25 per square foot down to 18, and here's how. And they understand floor cores and electricity and what you're going to be able to do square footage wise. And then let them worry about that type of stuff. That's what they are there for. And you find a good one, a good commercial broker with some of the bigger firms, they make your life, they take out the headaches out of this process. And it's such an invaluable asset and a great person to have during this process.
Absolutely. I can't emphasize on it enough, because in the old traditional, just the old way of doing it is just like a regular broker, get the space, I want to get in, let's just change some flooring, and building says, okay, I have our own contractor, let's put some finishes together, just move it. That would be more beneficial for them. But if you want to do it in the world class, you have a broker who specializes in medical. You ask all of these questions. You put the team together, If you want to create a gourmet food, you can't do it in the microwave. You can't just okay, let's go. Put a bag of popcorn in the microwave, let's go. No, that's a different mindset. The world class, again, I want to emphasize that it's not about how much money you spend. It's about the mindset and how you approach it, right? I want to keep emphasizing that, because the mindset is determined what is the outcome you're going to get, right?
Yeah, because on day one, when you move in and you're seeing patients for the very first time, you're going to look back on the last several months and think, that was a great team. It wasn't all a bunch of roses, but it was I feel like we've got a great product here. And this is something that's going to create a remarkable environment that is going to cause patients to positively have something to remark about, which is what doctors want, positive word of mouth referrals.
And also, we're in the master class talking about creating a masterpiece. It takes time. It has challenges. It has ups and downs. And any successful business, I see it. One of our clients, he had 2 rooms in another doctor's office. He rented, and then he hired us. We moved him. He leased the space. We went through the whole process with him. 5 years later, he's almost at 8 figures. It's incredible. And he's a very, very hardworking, very intentional. He has over 100,000 followers on Instagram. So he became super successful because every day he went into the practice and gave all of his best with a lot of intention. He worked on his mindset. It was a 12 months of process of construction. It was a lot of ups and downs. It was really he was willing to learn, willing to understand that what is the formula to set yourself for success. And success doesn't mean that you're going to everything is going to be easy. No, everything is going to be simple, but you set yourself for success and you get yourself ready for what comes next. When you have a right team, when you have a right space planning, when you have the right broker, when you have the right designer, all of these pieces enables for a success that comes with a lot of passion and pleasure. It's not just going in and out. We've seen them all. We go and see practices that okay, I just want to, just do a 9 to 5 and I'm done and I'm fine with this. And I'm we tell our clients, as much as you hire us, we hire you too. We're we can't do that for you. Don't pay us. Don't pay us for this, because you have a different mindset. You'll be more successful if you just put a pin and just move on, right?
Mm-hmm.
But if you want to set yourself for success, it requires a higher level of attention and
Mm-hmm.
And then I want to talk about I've been emphasizing on this part, your team, the core team is the design team. A consultant is, this is getting to more of a specialty if you're creating a surgery centers, which has medical, medical or any kind of certification or not. If you have like any kind of like, I don't know, is it cancer center or not? Like this is more about specialty. If you have a kind of specialty, make sure you have the consultant for that. And then as far as like an architect, basically like the architect it's collaborating with the design team, and then the contractor. Make sure that you always get 2 to 3 bids from the different contractors that they specialize in medical. That's really important because the contractor is what brings the design to life. Doesn't matter what kind of design that you hire a best designer, right, in the world. And if the contractor cannot implement it right, and you're not comfortable with the pricing and you feel like, oh, I'm overpaying it, or like it's not capable, it's important. So this is all the ingredients of like building something really world-class and valuable.
And before we jump off the contractor, it's a little bit different in a commercial environment. There's a little bit more responsibility put on the contractor and a little bit more professionalism than maybe someone that you would hire to do the tile in your bathroom at home. So who is the muscle that says, you know what, I'm the purchaser. I'm the one handing out the money, to design this great office space. But when I see that the contractor runs into an issue and we're there's a little bit of friction and tension, and I see that he or she, that contractor's not doing it quite like I'm hoping, who exerts the muscle there? Does it go back to the designer? Does it go back to the commercial broker?
So first of all, broker work basically ends when this leasing and all of this, the legal part is done. If it's a really awesome broker, they still stay in touch to make sure, the client is still like, or the doctor is still like having all the pieces together. But that's why when so in a small scale, like for like a practice that it has like 1 to 2 doctors, having a project manager is not efficient as far as a cost effective standpoint. But usually we do that for our client as like a main lead. That's why we said someone has to lead this, right? So our clients come back to us making sure like, okay, like is this design, like we have different packages. If it's a premium package, like we stay on top of everything with our clients, right? And with the contractor and with the building, right? If not, the contractor is the main person usually that has to be accountable for any kind of, I don't want to say mistake, but just miscommunication. The biggest thing in construction happens is the miscommunication. Like forget about everything else. One thing that we do with our premium package for our clients, like on every week, you have to have a set up a call. Like let's say every Wednesday at 4 p.m., everyone's going to get on the call, even to say, hi, this is what is happening. We're good. We'll meet you next week. But 1 week shouldn't pass by and you don't know what's happening in your project. You have to, that's a world-class way and the mindset. You hire the right team and you expect that they're going to give you that high level of communication. That's really, really important. So communication is the biggest thing in construction that if everything goes south. All those tension, all those, because the client or the office manager or whoever that is like a main person. So other thing I want to say, when you're going through construction, make one person responsible to stay in touch with the team. If it's your office manager, if it's your husband, if it's your wife, if it's your partner, whoever that is, one person should just, don't bring everyone. You're wasting your time, you're taking your attention from what you're passionate, which is serving your patients, and you lose money there by like, and then you lose money and you're not getting the result that you want when you're like so many people involved. One person. That's what I want to mention.
Thank you.
Any questions for this part? We're good?
No, we're good. And looks like, yeah, we're doing great for time too.
Okay. And how we do it. So I want to tell you the way we do it. So the first thing is knowing your why. This is the process that we usually walk our clients through. The phase one is like we're creating a mood board. So I want you to you're looking at this recording, pause it, look at this step by step. This is basically a result of 17, 18 years of seeing a lot of mistakes in construction, in design, in architecture process and everything. And we put this together and it works. And that's why we call it proven process. It works. I want you to walk through it so you know in your why, which the mood board, that it has tied to your branding, to your logo, to your website, and then tied to your space planning, right? So I mean, for the sake of time, I put this here for everyone to take a look at it. But this is a sample of our mood board. This is our clients wanted to have a certain of experience, wanted to feel a certain way, and that was like a combination of between very earthy and kind of a luxury, how you can combine these two worlds together. That is still is comfortable and laid back, but it has that touch of upscale to it. And it's not an easy way of combining gold and like beige and all of this with gray, but I want to give you an example. This has such a high level of harmony and it's achievable. If you have a right team, right, like you dig in to what do you really actually want, then this is our why. This is the core of our design. Okay. This is a world-class lounge area, especially now after COVID. If you have this space in your lounge area, you gotta work with the pattern, with the lighting, with everything else that non-verbally you create that space that your patients sit apart 6 feet, right? But there is a way that you do it. Some of our clients, they have much smaller space that we do it with different type of seating. But with this one, this project, this example is just like we're creating that higher level of distancing and really creating the more safer area by playing around with the pattern, with the space lining, with those panels on the wall, that creates that separation. So traditional floor plan, you walk in, there's a seating area, there's a receptionist, right? And they're all sitting here, they making calls, and there's a noise level, and then there's exam or treatment rooms in the back, and there's a storage and like it's restroom and so on, right? I'm just gonna go through this quickly, but I just like you can pause it and take a look at it, and then look at the a world-class floor plan. First, the first thing you look at this area is about one person is in the front. Put all of your team members in the back. Like all of the things that creates noise level. It's about patient experience. Your patients should feel it's the same space. You didn't spend extra money on like putting like team from the front to the back. It's just like being intentional. What does that world class means? It means when your patients walk into the space, they feel like, oh, it's a very concierge. Like this is a very good master class right now because it fits the subject so well. It's like concierge experience. You just walk in, there's one person gonna come to you. I mean, we can talk about that later. I think like if you like handing them the iPad with like kind of covering or sanitize it with alcohol so they can go sit in the lounge area and like really communicating with them with like a very one-on-one extra care. And then you walk them with like a really nice workflow throughout the space, taking them to the treatment room and taking all the noise and your team is more comfortable to perform in the back office, first of all, and second of all, it decreases tremendously the noise level in the lounge area when the patients walk.
And before we jump off of that for a moment, I know that there's probably some in chatter here about, well, that's going to make some of my staff upset, and I want to, let's look at some of the principles of leadership versus management. There are leaders and there are managers, and you are a physician, and if you are the CEO slash founder slash physician of this business, this practice, you are the leader. You are not the manager, and it is a leadership role will take on the responsibility of, unfortunately, I have to make some tough decisions, and this is the right decision on behalf of the organization and the patients and the staff. You will ultimately like this, but this leadership versus management decision of putting the staff in a different spot in the office may rub some people the wrong way in your staff, and that's okay. That is a leadership position, and that is a leadership decision versus a management decision that's trying to appease everybody and make everyone happy.
So I tell you something. I agree what you're saying, but I disagree, and I'll tell you why. A great leader is always communicating with their team. Always. So this decision shouldn't come solely from the leader. It comes from them together. Okay? So back to a world class, a world class is not a very light word. Otherwise, every practice would be world class, right? So it's about how you communicate. If our clients communicate that to their team, this is what we were trying to do. This is the new way of doing. Explain it to them, because I was about to go to the team, and I always say, how says happy wife, happy life, happy staff, happy business. It's a teamwork. I personally tell you, we're serving amazing clients, and I would not be here without my team. Hands down. I would not be here. And if I'm here, it's because we both, I have 10, 12 people in my company, we're constantly creating together. We communicate with each other, have a once a week meeting. This is what this is what's happening in the background. From your marketing decision to the medical decision to the practice to the relocation. And if the team is not the right team, they get overwhelmed. They will fade away, just tell you, because they feel overwhelmed. And the team that they're really committed, they want to hear more. They want to be part of it. So I would say a great leadership is about communication and just having them and create that trust, transparency. This is what we're doing. This is the designer wants to do. This is their suggestion. What do you think? Still get their feedback, but say this is a success that it came, and get them involved into that. Maybe a half an hour of the designer to present that to them. It just changes the entire whole perspective. And when they sit in the back, they're excited. They're excited because they know someone in the front, they're serving the patients, and they're doing their work in a quiet area, and they feel empowered. Mm-hmm. They want to be part of that, right? So sure. I can go really deep because I'm very passionate about leadership. I love, that's one of my top subject, and I look at myself as a leader in my company, and it's just something, it's a constant work. It's challenging, I tell you, hiring, letting go, right team, how to care. It's just going above and beyond. I realized when I opened my business, I'm in the business of design or I'm in the business of people. I realized it's not neither nor, it's both, but I have to work on myself. I have to work on my mindset. So a world-class design firm, which wants to, that's our vision and mission to transform medical spaces, cannot design and transform medical spaces if we're not transforming on the individual level. You know what I'm saying? So that's
absolutely
big. So the other point on this floor plan, I want to bring it up, is a breakthrough. That's another thing. Sometimes it's not sometimes, 50% of the time, it's not about you keep telling your team you're awesome, you can do this, it's just a nonverbal way of communicating. Do you know what I'm saying? And that is setting a place, even as small as possible. In the other floor plan, it was a storage, right? Our clients no, we need a storage. I'm we'll create a higher level of cabinet, give that space to your team. There's 3 doctors operating in this space, 3 doctors. So it's a lot of things happening in that space. But by putting that in there, their team is a very busy practice. It's just a lot happening. So they have like 10, 15 minutes, they have to go in and out, even though we say lunchtime, half an hour, 1 hour. With this practice specifically, they had like 10, 15 minutes break time. So we put a exhaust fan that we put on the restroom. Is a quiet Panasonic one that it doesn't have noise or anything above the microwave. So when they want to go warm up their food, they don't feel shy. Whatever food that they bring is going to bring the smell out because the space is so small. So now they're empowered. They're like, oh, they thought about this. They care about me, right? And I want to be part of this. I want to build their business. I want to be part of that. It's a like non-verbal way, and I'll be empower our clients to really do take this. And here's the thing back. It's not about spending a lot of money. It's about spending it intentionally. The fan is $200. $200. But just knowing it, and let's say another $100 for installation, is like knowing that like these are the intentions that I'm putting to creating a world-class space. It brings a whole different level of experience from the leader to the team to the patient.
Absolutely. Because you don't want to be embarrassed that you were the one that brought fish. And next thing you know, patients are commenting on what is that smell as soon as I walk in the office.
Yeah, because indoor air quality is part of the interior design experience. If you walking in a 5-star hotel and smell like a burnt food as soon as you walk in versus you smell of the roses and the flowers, it's the 5 senses that we feel that you got to touch upon all of that. You have to think about it. And it's not your, meaning the doctor's expertise. When you have the right team, they think for you. That's what you pay. That's what you bring. That's what you want to create. And you trust them that it's going to create an amazing space for you, right? So this is one of the 3D design I wanted to show you. It's the same floor plan that I showed you. This is one of our clients. The construction is coming to the end. And this one of the main reason, number one reason we do 3D is to give them clarity. Before the contractor order material, before it goes deep into the design and everything gets ordered, they have to know what is the end result in the beginning. So let me walk you through this. This is a 300 degrees. So it's like, as if like they're in the space, walking through the space. You see that? Like we create this 360 degrees for our clients before the construction starts. Every single thing here is been approved by our clients. So nothing is like just a nice design. It's everything is from the baseboard that we put the LED lights. This is the TV that it turns to artwork. It's a beautiful TV framed. I don't know, I think it's like $500-$600. It's not spending a lot of money on that, but it turns to a really high quality artwork, right? And everything is being approved, drawn, and everything approved by our client, from the furniture to lighting. Like, for example, the ceiling here, we would love to have like a flat, nice ceiling, but because of all the HVAC and AC system, we had to have 3-layer ceiling. And we wanted to make sure that clients know that when the construction is done, it's not like what is happening with my ceiling, right? So we put all of that in the 3D. So when you have a design team, make sure that you expect that, a high level of clarity. That's how you create a world-class space. You have a high level of clarity. So I'm going to go through some of our before and after picture. Just want you to stay in touch with your own feeling. Put yourself in your patient, in your team. Like imagine the team that is working here. Like this is the office right here, just for the team. And I'll show you the after picture, that how it's tied to the branding of our clients, how how we were able to help them to transform it and bring their vision to life. So this is before, this is after, right? Like
wow.
Where the patient, the consultation, the restroom is usually our focal point, because that's a place that you have your undivided attention of your patient. So that's the place that you can impress them, right? So you don't spend money on your entire space to have a fully designed space. You have a beautiful canvas, and we select 3 spaces to have a high level of design, focal wall, tilet, or anything else, that it becomes that beautiful flow. So the budget on everything is not like everywhere, like looks like it has to be designed. It has that like very intentional way. Let's go to another one. This is another client of ours, the before picture, cardiologist, really awesome doctors. One of his patients said, I never forget it, like we were in the construction, he hired us, and he didn't tell us in the beginning, but he said, one of my patients who became a really close friend to me, he said, I can't believe such an amazing doctor works in such a space. And this is after. He's proud. He goes to office. He feels awesome. He feels that, you know, he feels empowered to work in such a space. It's the space was small and the budget was very tight for this project, but like it was like really transformed his space. This is another project of ours. A lot of reflected ceiling, reflected surfaces, because there was not much of natural light. It was hard to get the natural light into the lounge area, to the reception area. So we had to, you know, this is another project of ours. Before and after picture. So, and this is a couple of our clients. I just wanted to share, I wanted to give that a credit to them. We really empower our clients, and it's a pleasure working with them because it's a teamwork. So I just wanted to share this. There's a design questionnaire, and I'll be more than happy to have a 15 to 30 minute call with you. The link is here, Michael, if they want to have, you know, if they have any question, or do they want to, you know, go through the questionnaire before the meeting so I can understand what their needs are and what are they going through, I'll be more than happy to help.
Well, this has been great. And our guest today is Mitra Silva. She's the founder and CEO of Seymour Design. And you should go to Seymour. It's there at the bottom left, SIMOUR design.com. And schedule an appointment, talk with them. But we have some questions that have come in, and about, looks as this time has gone forward with Mitra today, about that land in about 6 different categories. So I've chosen about 2 questions out of each category that I think will answer the 99% of these questions for you, Mitra. So if you're ready for a couple of questions from our audience, I'm ready to kind of knock those out for them.
Sure.
So let's talk about modifying behaviors related to best practices with paint color, and falling in love with Pinterest is also was also a comment. So let's talk a little bit about what your thoughts are on that.
So what's the best paint color for behavioral practices? Is that what you asked?
Well, I think the question is, like, it was a general question, what's some of the best colors to use in a practice? And obviously that can depend on geography. If you're in the desert, you have different themes and colors you want to bring in. But I think that, you know, how important is paint color? Let's approach it from that side of it. You know, most practices, most physicians are used to walking into eggshell paint offices, and we can do better than that. We need to do better than that. Patient burnout is a big deal too. So let's talk a little bit about how paint color influences behavior change and lifestyle, and really can move the patient forward to listen more intently to what the doctor's saying.
So my question, first of all, as far as what paint color is, the better question is, what is the color psychology behind that color, right? Understanding that we have a blog on our website. They can search and look at that. As far as the color psychology, it says exactly which color is good for what kind of treatment, not just the practices. Like if you have allergy, it's an allergy doctor, or if it's like more about like a GI doctor or whatever. But the most important thing in design to create a space that is timeless. You want to create a space that is timeless, because when you create a place that is timeless, it's always fresh, it's always clean, it's always welcoming, right? And you have some patients that they come with a mental pain before they even know the doctor or how they're going to get treated. There's some patients that are not. So if you create a space that is like more timeless, I would say staying not just in the beige area, like understanding how, like that's why you hire a designer, right? Even for the paint color, do some research, right? And even just hiring a designer, we don't do hourly consultation, but there's some designer, they do hourly consultation. Just get that expertise, opinion, that like what would be the best paint, and how much natural light you get, and what is your location, as you mentioned. But I would say keep that in mind, stay timeless and clean as a canvas.
And let's talk a little bit about the second part of that question. I found my wife or my staff have been browsing Pinterest lately, and they found some offices and colors that we think we want to put into the practice. Talk to us a little bit about the problem that creates, the realization of that, and how that may be an issue for them when they want to make those changes.
Pinterest, I believe, it's a very good tool, but the challenge with Pinterest is the moment you're looking at a picture and you love it, your subconsciously and mentally you marry that image, and you want to bring everything that you want to see and design and furniture and everything to match to that. So we never, like internally, we never use Pinterest. Even though it's a good source, if the clients are already looked at it, we get the inspiration from them. But usually it's not the best way, because you have to have a team or like ideas of what's the best for your location and what is the highest potential. If you get a picture that it has the high level of like natural lighting, and it has the high ceiling, and it has the like I don't know, like a really high level of budget of furniture into the space, it's not going to serve you. You're trying to copy. They say there's so many people come to this world as the original and then leave as a copy. No, it would not really serve. So I personally would not recommend Pinterest. I feel like you can get some ideas from nature, from what makes you feel. I think that would be a better direction to go. Stay connected to that feeling instead of stay marrying to an image.
Our next question is and really we also see that kind of there are two sets of questions. One is for those who are moving into a brand new space. So they're starting from the very first step of the world class. And then the others are dealing with the existing or the current space. So this one has a little bit of both elements in it. And that is, in your experience, what is the best practices for working with an interior designer in healthcare? What's the right way that these contractual relationships work between physician and interior designer? And what is the wrong way? If I hear something that, that's not the right way that I should be working with an interior designer, what are some of the best practices for nurturing that relationship, developing that relationship at the beginning?
So your question is, what would be the best way to hiring a right designer, basically?
Yes, that's what they're trying to ask.
Okay. So first of all, back to my first point, is the designer team or the designer, does she or he have the experience in medical? Number one. That's a number one checklist. Yes or no. If it's no, you're wasting your time, because don't bring a designer from residential and expect to create something that is such a high complexity and sophisticated, with budget and with money, with patient experience, with psychology, into that space. Just you're not going to get an amazing result, right? in general. I would say 99% of the time that's been the case. So that's the number one. Number two, when you're working with a designer, make sure it's very clear what are the deliverables. There's no gray area. Bullet point by bullet point, how long does it take? How do you do it? If a designer has a system and a process, then you can rely on that person. Because if I, for example, if I'm hiring an expert and a consultant, I rely on their expertise because I'm paying them and expecting that she or he knows some better than me in that field. So make sure you do your due diligence, do the research, have a talk with them, and really see the process of how they do their design. Once you have that and you're clear, there's no gray area to not, I don't see, like with us, with our clients, we have like step by step everything from our agreement, that we go to the agreement, to our deliverables, to our timeline. Everything has been written. Everything is in one place in one folder. No one is keep emailing back and forth the full files and pictures and all of that. Everything is in one place. So see the system, ask them for everything that they have. It's called deliverables, and do some due diligence to see if you can really rely on them or not. You can see by the pictures that's on their website, the reviews, and the conversation you have with them to see if it's a reliable person that you go down this path with them or not.
And the next question that came in, and then we'll get inside the practice here in just a moment and answer some of those questions. But while we're still kind of on the outside of the building looking in, who's on first, realtor, commercial realtor, or healthcare interior designer? Who should I be, if I'm making a change or looking at a new building or a new space, I like this area of town, this is where I would like to put the practice. Who should I be connecting with first? Should it be contacting commercial realtor first, then the designers? Do we all need to go together to see these spaces, the 3 top spaces? When should that interior designer be a part of the process?
Good question. First is your broker. Your medical broker is your number one. That's why, again, you're going to work with medical broker, because they know what are the requirements and the square footage and what works. If it's your a general medical practitioner, if you want to do some like med spa and injection combining with what you're doing, all of those should be addressed in the beginning with the broker. And I would suggest, in the meantime, while you're finalizing that, interview some designers, talk to them, educate yourself, right? And when you go down that path, as soon as you're getting into the leasing, hire your designer, because you save time as the process is going through. You start your space planning, so you're getting ahead of the game, basically.
And as we walk to the beginning of the practice, we walk to the doors here. How important is the exterior of the practice? This is one of the questions. How important is the exterior of the practice? And can an interior designer, are you just limited by the interior, or can you also help the exterior of the building look better?
So with my practice and my team, we do a lot of exterior too. So we have a lot of clients that, they buy the building, or like they have their location. So we do from exterior landscaping to interior. But, sometimes you don't, as a doctor, you just lease the space and you don't have a power to change the exterior because you get a suite within like a medical building. I would say, in that case, if you don't like the building, don't get into that even from the beginning, don't get to that space. But overall, I would say it's not a huge factor if it's a bigger building, but if it's a smaller building and you purchase it yourself, or if it's like a 1-story that it has retail, it becomes really important, because retail and being on the street level, it has a whole different way of attracting patients to your practice, right? So I would say not a huge factor. It can be really good if you're in a nice, awesome exterior building, absolutely, but it's not a huge game changer factor. We have clients that, the building is just in the okay situation, but when you really actually walk into their space, we design it and it looks fantastic. So that gives that experience. And also really like putting those picture of your space on your Instagram, on your social media, on your website, it makes a big difference as far as like how your patients will see you, like how much you care, not just from the exterior standpoint, but what you created the inside. But if you're retail, if you are like meaning retail, meaning in kind of a retail setup, or if you're by the street, then the biggest element is when you're closed at nighttime, your interior design and your lighting can do the marketing for you. So you have to spend the time, money, and energy to design something nice for your exterior, for your lighting, for your window case area, and everything else.
And we had another question that may seem a little bit unique, but in the 80s, this was pretty popular, where a lot of healthcare institutions and physician offices were looking at mall real estate. And as we know, malls have changed quite a bit. Retail space has changed quite a bit. We see a lot of more outdoor malls. We're starting to see a lot more chiropractors, aesthetics go into the outdoor mall retail setting. But we're starting to see that there are deep, deep discounts in mall real estate, in those vacant malls where we used to see Sears and Macy's and so on. And they're starting to see in some communities healthcare offices put inside of these. Is that a good idea, was the question.
So before COVID happened, I would say definitely. We even designed a boutique urgent care for UCLA Hospital in Westfield Mall. So it's super successful. All of this before COVID. But since COVID happened, retail even took a deeper shift and change of direction. So I don't have a solid and right answer for you, because I know retail is changing even faster than before, that everything's going online. But I would say some of our clients, they actually buying building, and I'm like, we're talking to them and seeing it like they're in the process of escrow and everything, that it has a similar setting in the kind of a retail area. If it has a high traffic regardless of the mall or not, or like it's a near the shopping centers or whatsoever, I think the broker can really help to give that information to them. Right. I think after the COVID, it became more of evaluation of area by area. Before COVID, I would say definitely go for it, because it was such a high level of like people were doing shopping and going to the mall and then doing their office visit and then get to the parking and go home. Right. But now it has a different, so I don't want to just give an answer that I'm not fully confident. I would say each area should be checked by their broker.
Absolutely. And another question that is coming in is social distancing in design as a design element, is that going to stay around a while in the offices that you've been working with or the hospital environments? Is that something that we think that needs to be considered for the next few years as we sign potentially a 3-year lease or a 5-year lease?
Good question. I don't know. Like, I don't know the future, but what I know, we like if I put myself in the shoes of a patient, I would not comfortable even for the next a year or two just sit next to someone very close. So the patient psychology has tremendously changed as how they approach back to not fear but inspire. So I think it has a lot to do with the practice. A lot of our clients, they do check-in via app, text messaging. So the patients sit in the car. When they get close to their, like, see the doctors, they come and like they go straight, sit in the lounge area for a minute or two and then go in. So I would say, at least I am just, that's my assumption, for another year, definitely, until everything is settled down. And healthcare, it would be the last place that everyone say, okay, I'm comfortable to sit someone next to someone else. You know what I'm saying? Because of like the nature of the business.
And we have 4 more questions for you. So the first one, what materials protect against the spread of infection best?
Copper. So if you're getting furniture, if you're getting any kind of like accessories or anything, use anything that has the embedded copper into it. Copper is really amazing. So yes, it's a higher price point, but the other point is stay away from a lot of like I would say like plastic and like, you know, like some of the furniture have this more like a plastic feeling, or it's like a polyester, or like all the materials should have the labeling. If it's fabric, it says anti virus, antibacterial, and there are in the market. We do that for our clients. So making sure that is one of the things. But if it's like a chair handle or door handle, if you have the opportunity building your space, make sure you get anything that it has copper built into it. It doesn't have to have a copper color, but it says that it has copper in it, that it creates that effect, an viral.
A couple other questions. Let's talk about lighting, UV lighting, and air quality. What are your thoughts on tips on that for the doctors?
Very, very, very important, especially now after the COVID happened. So some of the quick tips, if they're in the practice, you can buy like a individual air filtration system and put it on each of your exam rooms. Some of the doctors that they did it and they actually shared in the social media, they start having a higher level of patients because the patients feel comfortable. The indoor air quality, it gets like one in your lounge area, one on each of your exam room. It depends how expensive or like whatever you can afford or whatever you want to do it. That would be an immediate thing. That is fantastic, right? The other thing is create a small station by your entry point on your lounge area that it has all the sanitizing elements, from the mask to the hand gel, alcohol gel, alcohol pad. Make that extra investment to create a beautiful in the tray by the door and put it on social media of like, we are ready for you. Literally, it's like, we are ready for you. Like we provide all of those to them. And what was your other question? So indoor air quality and
UV lighting and just
UV
general lighting.
Okay. UV lighting. So this has been like a little bit of challenge in the beginning. A lot of trend had happened. There was a handheld one. Those are not safe for human to be in the space when you turn it on. So someone has to cover themselves, do the UV, and then go back. There's a company that it's called Health with the E at the end of it. They sell doorway UV light that is a very special UV light that when even you're in the space, it works and it's kind of sanitized the entire space. There's some recessed light, or they have like a 2x4 panels that it goes to the ceiling, that it does the air filtration and part of the UV package. There's some in the market, but you want to make sure that you use the product that is safe for humans while they're operating, and that creates a higher level of trust and also sanitizing and hygiene in the space.
And our second to last question is the most important room in the entire practice is what?
The what?
What is the most important room in the practice?
You're going to laugh at this, but it's your restroom. If you have a restroom inside, right? There are 3 points that has the highest level of importance. Lounge area, which is like you're dating, your first sight. And it doesn't matter how many times your patient's been there, still is your first sight. Your lounge area, your consultation room, and really important one is your restroom. If you have an inside suite restroom, I would say you got to give it love. You got to give it the right design. The senses, like putting it really settled, not a strong air freshener, like putting nice candle, like something that, you know, you can show that extra care, show that like you go that extra mile. But if you're going through the renovation, you're going through that, like creating it, make sure your lounge area, your consultation room, and your restrooms are in the peak point of your design.
Absolutely. And it tells a lot about the doctor if you walk into the restroom and you have an overflowing trash can. I mean, just the little things, the way your staff smiles at you when you walked in, you know, is there dust on the countertops? You know, those types of things communicate the quality of the care that I'm about to receive here. So like you said from the physician earlier, from that story, you know, I can't believe such an amazing doctor works in a place like this. I mean, we've got to move that needle forward, and certainly you are doing that. And so we want to thank you for your time today, Mitra, and thank you for this education. This has been, I think, incredibly helpful. So we're going to close out the questions today. And if you have any questions or any more questions, you want to reach out to Mitra, please do so, seymourdesign.com. But also, how do they access the bonus or the slide decks, or how did they get in touch with you, Mitra?
I put the email here. It's called, the email is welcome@seymourdesign.com, or you can call us at 310-359-1200. And, you know, you can be in touch with my team, and we'll be more than happy to provide the slide or the bonus of this masterclass.
Wonderful. So I will pause with this one last question. And I know that I appreciate everybody's time today. So thank you for sticking with us. But if you were to close the doors, turn off the lights, hand over the keys to your predecessor, whoever that may be, one day, and you think back on your career doing this and helping doctors and helping patients and communities, what's one story that just stands out to you that would say to you, man, I did it. Like we accomplished what we set out to do. We ran the race and we finished.
The biggest thing for me is when I see the change in every client that we touch upon. I would say we're at the point that we're onboarding the clients that as much as we hire them, they hire us, we hire them too. And we go down this journey. And my dream is at the end of this journey, they became a better version of themselves through this process. Because if we change one doctor's mindset and the way they're looking at their practice, he touched upon hundreds and hundreds of different patients, right? It's like getting to the source. So my dream is to transform the spaces that it eventually, and the result of it is transform the doctors and the patients' lives.
Wonderful. Well, that's the our vision as well, is to change the world of medicine one doctor at a time. That is an achievable goal for all of us, for you and for me. And it's not about being the best doctor in the world anymore, the best nurse in the world, the best PA in the world, or the best practice in the world. It's about being the best practice, the best doctor, the nurse, PA for the world, for your community, and most of all, for your patients. So thank you so much for what you're doing, Mitra. And again, if you want to reach out to Seymour Design and Mitra and talk with her team, meet with her team, ask her questions, ask her team questions, please do so. You are not limited by geography. Is that correct?
Absolutely. We have clients all over US, and the next step, we're going international. Yeah.
Wonderful. Well, thank you so much for joining us, Mitra.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me.